Welcome viewers to Marriage Bliss Show. This is where we enrich one another, this is where we encourage one another, and we continue to say that marriage works, but marriage is work. We need to work on it. We need to be there to support one another and to feel good about ourselves and to keep cheering one another up.
Yeah.
And so, my name is Pastor Steve Muigai, and this is my wife.
Irene Muigai.
Yeah, well, we are glad to have you here, and we get to talk with one another and to encourage one another. Today, we would want to look at understanding your spouse's background,
Yeah.
because we feel this is an area that brings a lot of conflict when it is not well looked at. Because when you fail to understand your spouse's background, there are things that will be happening throughout in your marriage, even when you are 10, 20, or 30 years into your marriage, and you'll be failing to understand and probably go through some conflicts just because you didn't take your time to understand your spouse's background.
Yeah,
And
you're
so
right.
you can tell us, why do you need to understand our spouse's background?
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. And welcome our viewers. Now, background, as my sweetheart is saying, is very important because background tells us who you are, because it's actually what has made you to where you are. Since you were born, where were you born? Who gave birth to you? Such details. It's what we are going to talk about, background, and how comes it's very important to talk now when you're in a marriage setup.
Yeah.
This is because you carry a lot of quality, values and qualities from your upbringing, the way you are brought up, what values were instilled in you, what is the culture in which you are brought up, the environment, the social relations that you had, everything that includes you since you were born. Then you've been brought up until you grew up to make a decision to now leave that home and be part of someone's life that is now your husband or your wife. So background is very, very important.
Very
And
important.
it's good to appreciate that we all have different backgrounds. We come from different backgrounds, and none should be named and none should be demonized. This one is bad and this is good, and that is why I'm in a bad marriage or I'm in a good marriage. It is totally about you as a person.
Yeah.
Marriage is about you as a person, but background plays a very, very great role, and that is what we are going to be discussing. And maybe we can discuss to share our backgrounds and some of the effects we've had and some of the battles we've had to deal with in our marriage that have been caused by our different backgrounds. Maybe you can share with us.
Wonderful. Now, this one. I always say that it is an amazing one.
Yes.
Because there are those things that we all of us, both of us, we come from totally different backgrounds.
Yeah.
As much as we come from the same community, as we would say, there are those things that you find they are totally different when you look at our background. One, I come from a Christian family where I've grown up throughout my life seeing my dad and my mom, us going to church together. Yeah. And so that is one thing. We've grown together. I've seen mom and dad work together. I've seen them, we could have a fellowship day in the house, together, dad, the mom, and the children. We all our lives we have grown up in a place where we can pray together.
Yeah.
I've grown in a situation where I'm seeing dad reading for us the word of God.
Yes.
I've grown up in a situation where we have seen, we grew up knowing how to work together as a family.
Yeah.
But now here comes my wife,
Yes.
my sweetheart,
Yes.
who has a situation. Maybe I think you are the best person to describe, your background and how you think it is different from the way ours was.
Yes.
Yes.
If I was a man, I would have used a few words and say the opposite is true, because it's actually the opposite of yours, of his. I was brought up in a family setup that is polygamous, and that tells you that it's already totally different from his. I would say that it was a Christian family, or is a Christian family, but halfway, because it was our mom who taught us to go to church, and also our stepmother, because they are women of God and they would go to church. But my dad, from the time I was born until he went to be the Lord in 2020, I've never seen him even near the door of a church. I want to imagine he didn't even know the direction of the church, or imaginary he knew. And so that alone, in the area of faith, it was totally different. We grew up, I grew up in a family where it's a full family, because there is mother and there is father and now the children, but the aspect of togetherness was never there. So the fact that you are in a house does not make you a complete family. You can be staying together, but you are totally different people. There was no that cohesion of, like, now you are saying you'd have a fellowship. You've been taught to do things together. From my background is doing things your way. The only thing that I would say is that we grew up in a very disciplined background, where mistakes were not taken lightly, and there was no space for it, by the way. And so when I want to think of the way you grew in a complete family, where you can see mom and dad do things together, that I have never experienced. But there was dad and there was mom. So it is also good for our viewers to understand, because sometimes we would feel like maybe I'm a single parent, I'm a single mom, or I'm a single dad, because of any circumstance that has led to that. Either death, divorce, separation. There are so many things that could have led you to be a single mom or a single dad. That one does not make you any less. When we are talking about making your family complete, especially when we will be talking about parenting later. But I want also to encourage those people who are in a complete setup of a father, mother, and the children, that it is not the name of us being together in the house, it is what you do inside the house.
Exactly.
That makes the difference. It is what you do inside the house now as the married couple to make it a marriage. To make it a marriage. Because ours was, I would not say that it qualified to be a marriage. It was a kind of a union that is complicated, because there is nothing you are really doing together as a couple. And so that is my upbringing. And I grew up knowing that a mama is supposed to embrace things and difficulties. She's supposed to take care of the running and all the endeavors about her child. I mean her children. She's supposed to shield and take up all the pains from every other direction. And her place is to be seen and not to be heard.
Wow.
That is the kind of background I'm coming from. And so now it has implications, because now when I come into the marriage, I'm just figuring what a good marriage should be. Not because I've seen one, I've never experienced one, but I want to thank God because of the gift of salvation. Because were it not for God in me, that God helped me to make a decision to go in the godly way and help me settle with a man who would really teach me what a family or a marriage means, then it would really be bad for me. So I want to first thank God and appreciate that it's by His grace that I was born again, and so I desired to have a godly marriage, to have a godly family, and true to His word, He's faithful.
Indeed,
I am
God
proud
is
to be in one.
Indeed, God is so faithful.
Yeah.
One of the things that we, the viewers, to together with us, we can agree together,
Yeah.
is that it is not about the presence of the father and the mother and the children that makes the difference, but it's about what you're doing
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Many other times, and it is known, we say that daughters are always very close to their daddies,
Yeah.
and the daughters again, the sons again to the mother.
Yeah.
But you find, like the case of my wife, she tell me she cannot remember any time
Yeah.
they ever sat and laughed together with their dad.
Yes.
And I could not believe or even get to understand. What do you mean that you have never spent some good time with your dad, laughing or even sharing story or even
Or
being
going out somewhere.
or going out somewhere,
Yeah.
and I could not understand. And so I'm here to challenge the viewers, because one time, you who is listening to me, your children will share about how they grew up together with you as the dad or the mom.
Yeah.
And it is good to try to figure out. One time we went into a seminar and someone said, tell us what you would want people to say when they come for your 80th birthday.
Yes.
Can you read for us what you would want your son to say when he comes for your 80th birthday?
Yes.
And I'm here to ask, what do you think your son or your daughter will say when they attend your 50th or your 60th or 70th or 80th birthday?
Yeah.
What is it that you'd want your children to say? Because the background that the way you bring up these children, the way you create time for them, they will still remember. They will still remember. And so when you're talking about understanding your spouse's background, it is very critical.
Yes.
Because again, there is a way it molds someone. For us, if I can share briefly about our experience, for her having come from that background where allow me to share this.
Yes.
Where she has seen the mother being chased away. Sometimes they are forced to not to eat in the evening. The food, the dad comes drunkard and pours the food down and
Give it to the dog.
and the food is taken and given to the dogs, and the children are told to go and sleep. There is a way, unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, it toughened my wife.
Yes.
And now I married a very tough one, and now she is there in the house.
Yeah.
And again, when now she comes into the house, the very first few months and the year, I would say the first years, it was quite hard to understand her. For her, she knows when there is disagreement, the wife goes away back to their home. Because that is how she has grown, knowing and seeing the mother do, where they could fight, disagree, and the mother goes back to their home, and the children are left. And now, at one time, I remember we disagreed, but when we were in our first year, and I remember her packing and saying that she want to go, and I was wondering, this just a small disagreement. Why are you saying that you want to go to pack your things and go? Remember, it is not even 1 year after our wedding. And background shapes someone's mind, and the way you conduct yourself, the way you behave. That is something that I've seen that is very, very strong. The other thing is about faith. There are people that, just as I've shared, there are people that you find they don't know about, they have not grown up in a situation where they believe about the importance of going to church. They know that believing, of course, they believe that there is God. And so they can just say a word of prayer. They can just say, "Our Father who art in heaven," and it is done. After all, they are still Christians. But there is someone else who believes in waking up very early in the morning and going for fellowships, going for Sunday services, being active in the church. And now you're getting married to someone and wondering, what were you doing in the church on a Saturday? What were you doing in a church on a Wednesday? Getting to understand one's background is very important.
It's very important. And like you were saying, it has an implication, because now, like when I was coming in the marriage, and the tough me is trying to readjust, but I have come from my background with some known concepts that I have to be on guard, because men are not to be trusted. Men are not people who can take care of a woman, because I've not seen it being done to my mom. They are there to harass and be harsh and all that. And so I now come into this marriage, and there is some disagreement, because I have come when I'm on guard. Any disagreement tells me time has come. I was not waiting for if the quarrels will come, it is when. Because I was so certain they will come, they will be bad, and I'll be packing and going to get out of this stressful thing. And so I waited for when, not if it will happen. I was very sure it will happen, because I have come from a place of negativity. And so I come with it into my marriage, and I had never gotten a chance or an opportunity to go through counseling. And that is why I want to encourage our viewers. You don't go for counseling because you are overwhelmed or because you are depressed. You go for counseling to help you. Because if you understand that you're coming from a hurtful background, and a background full of negativity, you need to go for professional counseling so that you're helped on how to deal with it, to give you an easy time in your marriage. Because what I realized after I went through counseling much way later, I realized that I have been doing a lot of harm to me and my husband because of the expectations and what I carried from my background. You need help, you need someone to walk with you to unlearn those things and to start canceling the negativities with positivities. That there are good men out there, my marriage is going to work, disagreement does not lead to a separation or divorce and fights. You can solve disagreements soberly, and those are things that I was really struggling with. And so I came into marriage this tough lady, and I'm waiting for any red flag, and I'm ready to quit and fight back and shield back, because I know this man is out to disappoint me. He's going to hurt me like I've seen mom being hurt. And so it was really difficult, but I want to thank God because He's really been faithful to help us through.
Wonderful. So thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. And we as we continue to look about how understanding your spouse's background, there are things that I came to learn, and especially borrowing from our marriage and our experience, that one's background can affect someone's esteem.
Very.
You know, there is a way a child may have a lot of enthusiasm and courage, and the esteem is very high. The other one, depending on the experiences that they have gone through, you find that they are the cool people. They don't like talking so much. They are not full of confidence within themselves because of the experiences that they have gone through. You know, there are those people, and I want to challenge you as the viewers, that there are those things that you do to your children and affect their esteem. Even the way you receive their report on how they are performing, the way you treat that child, the way you tell that child that there is hope. I remember in my case, my dad really encouraging me. I had come from, I remember when I did my class 8, I was position number 2 in our school. And now I was admitted in a good high school, provisional high school. And when I went there, it was a 4-stream school, very big population. And out of around almost 200 pupils in Form 1, I became number 186. And you cannot imagine. This is a position I've never seen. And I remember Dad taking time to encourage me and telling me, you can do it. I believe this was just a good start. At least you have defeated this number of people. And I still remember that conversation. You know, that the way my dad received that report, and out of the same, God helped me. Within the 4 years, I was among the top 30 within the school, and I was admitted. I got to perform very well to join campus. But you can imagine if I took that report home and dad, rebuked me. Yeah, those quarrels. Usually share with me a story on what happened when you received your KCSE result.
Yes.
And whenever you remember that story, I always feel the emotions. Because you are rebuked.
Yeah.
You are told that you are made
Good
for
for
you are
nothing.
good for nothing, girl. You marry there in the village. You are going to become pregnant. You are going to become, such heavy words, and they truly affected your esteem.
Yeah.
And so one's background is able to affect one's esteem. And I'm saying this so that you can understand the background of your spouse. You can try to fight back. How was it when you are going to school? How was it when you are growing up?
Yeah.
How did you relate with your dad and mom when you are there in school, or when you are there young as a young person?
Yeah.
The same way, I'm also sharing this so that you as a person, you can also become or make a purpose intentionally to become a good parent to your children, because the way you relate and conduct yourself, it is going to affect.
Sure. And maybe someone would wonder, why are we talking about children and we are not talking about parenting today?
Yeah.
It's because, as I said, I am in my marriage and I am formed of who I was, or I started being since I was a child.
Yeah.
So the childhood carries a lot of me in my marriage.
Yeah.
Your childhood carries a lot of you into your marriage. And that is why we need to be very deliberate, even when it comes to parenting and the kind of environment we create for our children, because they are only children today. He's your son, she's your daughter today, but tomorrow they'll be someone's wife and husband. That is why it's very important to keep going back to, like we are talking about background and parenting. They run hand in hand.
Yeah.
Because the qualities and the values you are instilling in this girl and in this boy, it will run into someone's marriage, into their marriage,
Yeah.
as someone's wife and as someone's husband.
Yeah.
And when we talk about self-esteem, it is very critical, because the other day I was actually sharing with my sweetheart, and we are talking about how your background can affect and change your personality along the way. Because you can be born, the way God created you, because the Bible says that he knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. So there is that person who was created by God to accomplish a certain purpose in their lives. And so I was born when I was this vigilant, vigorous girl with a lot of strength and life. I would do athletics. I was a prefect all through, because that tells you there is some leadership qualities in you. Like primary levels, I was a prefect. It goes to the secondary, and you find being appointed in leadership positions. But because of the upbringing and the background, whereby you are intimidated, and the person who is supposed to give you strength and affirm you, and stamp on the qualities that God has given you, he's the same person draining them and telling me a lot of bitter words and a lot of harshness when I was being brought up, especially when now I became a teenager in my secondary school. That is why now I understood what was really happening in my life, and it really affected me. So even you who is listening there, and you are parents of teenagers and even preteen stage, you need to be very deliberate on what you're telling your child. Are you building them for a better marriage partner somewhere, or are you breaking them down? Because it is that time I really changed. I was no longer interested in athletics. I would get the leadership positions, but I'm not really performing, because most of the time I used to think of how bad I am, how unqualified I am, because those are the words I'm getting. And so my self-esteem really went down to a point that by the time I'm joining campus, I am not sure of myself anymore. And I could not even want to be a group leader or anything in, you know, team discussions in the university, because my esteem had really been down. And unfortunately, I carried this into my marriage. And I want to bless God for you, sweetheart, because you've really worked on me. You've really been helped by the Lord to improve the me that came into the marriage. And when I look back and evaluate myself, I realize I lost me somewhere, especially when I was a teenager. Like the go-getter that I was, you know, the active girl that I was, I lost it somewhere, and I came into marriage a different girl because of my background. So it is very important, the spouses who are listening to us, by the grace of God, seek and tell God to help you understand your spouse. Where are they coming from? Could you be judging them because of things they are doing and it is not out of their own will? Are they being pushed by bitterness, some bitternesses that have been held within? Have you found who hurt them when they were younger? Have you found who talked bad words and instilled negativity to them when they were young? Have you taken time to look at the background of your husband? Did they have a father figure? Was it the complete house that we've talked about, or was it the absent, the present but not present dad? Who really brought him up? What qualities did he borrow in his background as a man? Has he gotten the qualities to fight for his family? Do he know the qualities of standing up for his family as the pastor, as the mediator between his family and God? Don't judge by comparing to others, that why is my husband not behaving like so and so? Why is my wife not behaving like so and so's wife? Understanding the background. Where are they coming from? Challenge yourself. How can you help your spouse? Because for me, it has really been a journey. And now I was talking about the self-esteem. I'm coming into this marriage feeling like I'm not good enough. And you know, it's so funny because it's not written on your face. Even when you're marrying, your spouse may not really pick it, because there's a tendency of shielding and, you know, acting fine when you are really broken from the inside. And you really need a spouse who is seeking God, so that they can understand and pick those small pieces that are broken in you, so that they help you work on it and encourage you as you work on yourself. And so when it comes to self-esteem, it is really damaging when you come into marriage with a self-esteem that is low and broken, because you feel like you are never good enough. And when you have this feeling of I'm not good enough, any trigger alouses your unworthiness. And I remember you've really, I appreciate you have really worked on me, because anytime we have a disagreement, I feel like you're doing this to me because I'm good for nothing. You are treating me because this way because I'm useless. You know, you don't even love me anymore, because I don't believe in myself. And it was caused by a background somewhere, because I believe that is not who God created me to be. And so I really appreciate you. And maybe you can share with some men listening out there, and they are struggling with conflict after conflict with their wives, and they feel like they want to quit. They feel like they've married the wrong person, and they have not taken time to understand, where is this girl really coming from? Who hurt them? What were they told? What were they forced to believe about themselves? And I believe you are the right person to encourage a man out there who is feeling like their wife is quarrelsome and they don't understand and they are pity and all that. Because that journey the Lord has helped us to go through.
Indeed, that is very true. And even as we progress, there is something that I would want you to share before we finish about the panic attacks.
Yes.
But before that, I want to share, just to cite some examples, because you are going to meet with someone probably in school, you meet with someone probably in church, and you get to fall in love, and you are there now getting married. I want to tell you, um, there are children who the parents get to part, and the children are taken back to their grandmothers, and they are brought up by their grandparents.
Yeah.
There are those children who, again, they have grown in the same house together with their parents. But they grow seeing their father beat their mother, or even the other way around,
Yeah.
the mother beating the daddy.
Yeah.
There are those children again who are there in the house, but again, the parents disagreed, and probably now they are only brought up by either one of the parents, either the father or the mother.
Yeah.
I want to tell you, in all these cases, in all these scenarios, they have an effect to this person once they are grown up and once they enter into their marriage.
Yeah.
You cannot deny that.
You can.
You know, there are those things that we need to look at, and once you get to understand, there is now the focusing on the positive,
Yeah.
even as you try to build up and to bring back the confidence, and even to try to complement with one another, because there is always something good in someone.
Sure.
Even if whether they are brought up in the children's home, whether they are brought up wherever they are brought up, there is always something positive.
Yeah.
And so you focus on that positive. Number two, there is the part of accepting that there is something I may want to share. You know, the way you are saying, you go to a professional counselor
Yeah.
and get to share out and pour out your heart, so that you get to learn new things and also relearn some things that you may not necessarily need to carry into your marriage. You know, I've seen, and I've seen, you get to see children in different scenarios.
Yeah.
There are those parents again who are there. The parent is there, they know their daddy, they know their mommy, but they never stay together.
Yeah.
There are those children who, because of different reasons, there are those children who are there in the house, in church, you know, in a good environment, where there is family love. You know, they know that over the holidays they can go for holiday together, but they are meeting with someone who has not grown up in such. And so it is always good to get to understand where are you coming from. But one of the things that I would want to encourage, and especially to the men and also to the women, get to understand where your spouse is coming from,
Yeah.
and get to see how you can help this person. Get to understand, oh, by the way, you behave this way because of your background.
Yeah.
And so you do not get offended. You know, right now I do not get offended when I see you trying to do some things, because one of the things probably you didn't say is that my wife is the firstborn, and I'm also a firstborn. So you can see a scenario of two firstborns getting married. You know, and firstborns know how to take charge. Firstborns know how to do things
And give instructions.
and give instructions.
Yes.
And so here are two firstborns getting married. When you get to understand some of these things, you do not necessarily get offended.
Yeah.
Share briefly with us, even as we finish, about one of the effect about panic attacks because of some of the experiences when you are growing up.
Yes. Thank you for that. As I've shared about the low self-esteem, I would always feel like I'm not good enough and I'm doomed for fail and everything. And now one of the repercussions and the consequences that I carried even into my marriage is that being quick in the mind of negativity as compared to the mind of positivity. And some of the effects also for being someone being harsh on you, they are always yelling, and you are always, you know, at the corner waiting for a bad moment to happen, even at night. It really affected me, and I realized that it's the source of having anxiety and panic attacks. And that is something I experience even to date, but we are working on it with my husband and trusting God, and I am now aware, because one of the good things is getting aware. Even as we encourage your spouse to learn and understand your background to support you overcome, you also need to be aware. Get to be aware of your background. Be helped by even a professional counselor to understand who you are and where you're coming from, and what is it that you need to do to get out of that and overcome it, because life must continue, my dear ones. Your marriage must continue, and you have to behave right and work right in your marriage, because marriage is work that works. You are not going to engage in the work of marriage for your marriage to work when you are disabled, in quotes. Disabled meaning you are emotionally hurt, you cannot think straight, you keep getting bad memories, and they ruin your mood and everything. And so I came into my marriage with that kind of a mindset, whereby even my emotions, I would be happy like twice in a week. The other days are moody, I'm frowning, and because of replaying, they keep replaying in your mind. And also the devil have a strategy of making them replay the bad ones, so that he weighs you down, and you have no energy to concentrate and be happy in your marriage. And one of the disadvantages is now the consequences that happen when you come from such a background that is abusive. You get those anxiety and panic attacks, and they are really not a good thing to experience, because sometimes I can be in the kitchen, I'm doing my normal jobs, and then I just get the attack, especially when you have a stressing season, because that is normal in life. Maybe there's something that is stressing you, and it's either positive or negative. Or when you are overwhelmed, you have some workload, you've not done things, you get those attacks, and they are really disturbing. But be encouraged if you are there and you get those attacks. Be aware of yourself. You feel it when it's coming. Take charge. Do the simple things like taking a walk, say a prayer, because we believe in the power of prayer. Share it with your spouse. Nowadays, I don't keep quiet. I share with my sweetheart, and I'm like, sweetheart, I've just gotten an anxiety attack. And he'll hold me, we'll pray, and and try to distract me so that it cools down and it's done. So just be aware of yourself. Be positive in your marriage. Work on yourself through the help of God. Engage your spouse. Work on each other. Complement one another, because that is the main reason as to why God has brought you together. So don't allow your background to pull you back. But it is so important to understand, where is my husband coming from? Where is my wife coming from? What can I do? Because God has delegated me them. Because my husband is a delegated duty to me. And I'm a delegated duty to him by God. What am I doing with him now that God has entrusted me to be with him? What are you doing with your spouse now that God has delegated you to be with them? Are you making them better than you found them? Or are you the one making them worse than you found them? May the Lord help you to make them better, because that is in his will. And that is why the main purpose why God has brought you together, so that you can be one and improve on the other person.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It is a great, wonderful sharing. We shall continue to look at that. Please create time to go and get to study, get to understand, get to ask questions about your spouse, get to understand. Probably you have never created time to ask, by the way, how was your primary school life? How was your high school life? Get to understand some of the challenges that your spouse went through. Get to understand. Number two, we said that we are going to be very intentional and very deliberate, even as we bring up our children, because the experiences that we give them, they have a replication once they get into their marriages. So thank you so much, viewers, for creating time. May the Lord bless you so much. Continue to subscribe to Family Bliss. Continue to subscribe. This is Marriage Bliss show, where we enrich one another, where we build one another, and we pray for one another. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord bless your marriages and your families.
God
Thank
bless
you so much.
you.
Thank you.
And do you good.
Amen.